Davies. All right, before we talk Catch All the Naras, that's the fight card that is happening this weekend in Liverpool. Remember, it's live on the Zone. Let's quickly talk about the cancellation of Joshua Buatsi versus Dan Azeez. So many conspiracy theorists running around talking about ticket sales potentially being a reason. The official reason, or the reason, or the line that Ben Shalom and Boxer have put out is that Dan Azeez has hurt his back, and that's why the fight is off. Other people believe that ticket sales were so bad that they had to call it off, and there's been rumors about this fight being pulled for the last 2 or 3 weeks. Do you know anything, Gareth? I know your ear is to the ground. Do you know why it has been pulled? Is it because of Dan Azeez's back? Are there any other issues behind the scenes that we don't know about?
Well, I've heard Eddie Hearn's comments on talkSPORT. Obviously, he's politicising there. We don't have any evidence from anyone or the O2 that ticket sales weren't going well. I mean, it's a big venue to fill, and neither of these guys have a massive following yet.
Yeah.
It's a fight that definitely ignites huge interest, certainly in the boxing world. But when you can see it on Sky and you don't have to go to the arena and you're not an avid follower of these guys, maybe there was an issue with ticket sales. I don't know that for certain. There's been a deal, of course, with Boxer and NBC announced this week as well. That's got a lot of push from a lot of the boxers involved signed up with Ben Shalom and Boxer. And that's a pity for them as well, because that was going to be their first show this weekend, I believe, on NBC, which is a big deal, by the way. That's a big station in America. If it is down to ticket sales, then that's a real shame. I think they should have pressed on with it. Or if it is down to ticket sales, go for a smaller venue, not on 17,000, 18,000 seater venue. Copper Box would have been perfect for it. But you have to go with the fact that this is a huge fight for Dan Azeez. It's very late in the day to call the injury, but we have seen this before, boxers pulling out very late. It's a massive fight for Dan Azeez. It's one that really sends him down the ladder if he's beaten by Buatsi, because it's bragging rights, it's a friendship broken, it's the march to world title glory, and also Azeez, along with Lee Woods, the featherweight world champion, is probably the most improved boxer in the UK in the last 24, 30 months. So
yeah.
A lot on the line here. I don't want to speculate too hard that it's down to ticket sales. And if it is, it's a great pity.
It is, because I think potentially you're looking at a fight of the year candidate, because you've got two guys here that will just throw. Now, I think we've seen Dan Azeez in the last 24 months, and I agree with you, so improved. He's done it the right way as well, the old school traditional way. You don't really see it anymore. Southern area, English, British, Commonwealth, European. He's ticked all those boxes. And this would have been assault on the world level, right? You beat Joshua Buatsi, you then potentially, who knows, you might get a crack. We've seen it before, guys get that opportunity. So it is disappointing. And it's disappointing as well that they don't have the fan bases to sell the O2 Arena, because it's that kind of fight that really should be able to do the O2 Arena. But it kind of goes back to the misfits, guys.
It does, and selling yourself and using the platform, and, maybe having a little bit of pushing and shoving and not being nice to each other. Although, the week before, Josh Warrington and Lee Woods were nice guys, gentlemen fighters. That had 10,000 at the Utilita Arena. You were there with them. It was an extraordinary night. Great fight. Brilliant performance by Lee Wood in the end, and a great performance by Josh Warrington. Generated a lot of interest. But, if we are talking about what I was interested in this fight, particularly, and I hope it still does go ahead, was just how much Dan Azeez would have pushed Joshua Buatsi to get the very best out of him. And because Dan Azeez is a momentum fighter, great jab. We saw that in, was it the Hosea Burton fight? I think it was.
Yeah.
Where he was really impressive. It was a fight that I believed would get the very best out of Joshua Buatsi. I'd picked him to win on a razor-tight points decision. And unfortunately, we're not going to see it right now. And they're going to be desperately disappointed, because it was a big build-up in lots of ways. They had the box park in Croydon one afternoon. They've had to put their friendship aside. You know, thousands of rounds apparently they've sparred together. You know, they've done ice baths together. They've put to one side, compartmentalized a friendship to have a fight, and they looked uncomfortable with each other at times, I've got to say as well, because they're both good guys. Yeah, they're both good guys being bad in there, in the ring, and so it's a very odd situation. And I was really looking forward to being there for talkSPORT as well on Saturday night. Such a shame.
Yeah, I do want to talk about Catchall Linares, and we will get onto it, I promise, for everyone listening. But a quick thought on Ben Shalom and his time as a promoter for Boxer. I don't want to simply put it to a question for you as successful and not successful, but on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not successful and 10 being very, where are we? Is that a difficult question to answer? If it is, apologies for
no, because I can answer it in the way I'm going to answer it, which is he's been in it 2 years. It's a process.
Yeah.
He was thrown very much in the deep end. Look, I mean, I know all the promoters. I speak to everyone. He's a very young promoter, learning on the job. It's a process. You're going to make enemies naturally as a promoter. It's a very tough industry to be in. Donald Trump never made it as a promoter in America, you know.
He certainly tried.
He tried, but he didn't make it. You know, maybe it's harder than being elected president of the United States, in other words. So I think, you know, Eddie Hearn's kind of taken him to task over a few things and taken him apart when, you know, with the Fabio Wardley, Fraser Clark situation. Yeah.
Richard Riakporhe, Opetaya.
Richard Riakporhe and Opetaya. You know, as I just said, people are going to be your enemies naturally as a promoter because it's all about being top dog. There aren't many. He's very prominent. He's in a very prominent position with Sky Sports. And, you know, this will be seen as a body blow. I remember last year when that women's card stopped because of the Queen's passing, Queen Elizabeth II's passing. They did a brilliant job of reigniting that card 6 weeks later and kept it all intact. And so they've done some really good things. You know, they've got a group of next generation fighters coming through: Caroline Dubois, Lauren Price, Adam Azim. You know, they've signed up
Ben Whittaker.
Ben Whittaker. They've signed up a group of cruiserweights in Riakporhe and Nicole and Billum Smith, which they can create exciting fights from. They've got a lot of great foundations there. They've just signed a deal with NBC. This is just things that happen in boxing. You know, you've got to deal with your casualties as well as your successes.